Hi, I'm Neil from Garland Technology. I'd like to spend the next few moments of your time to explain to you what Garland does, who we are, why what we do is incredibly important to your network, whether it is an OT or whether it's an IT infrastructure. Garland is a company that's approximately 10 to 11 years old. We're a privately owned company, but we have one mantra in life. And that single mantra is to see every bit, byte, and packet of whatever is on your network. Quite simply, that is all we do, and that is what we are about. And how do we do that? Well, we do that with what we call our network visibility fabric, our tap-to-tool architecture. And really, there are three core and main components into this. We have the packet visibility, the aggregation of optimization, and we have a third part, which is edge security. So in terms of packet visibility, that is the very, very core thing of everything we do. Network test access points, network taps, and we can do those over any infrastructure. We still have 100 base FX taps, and we can go from 10 meg taps, we can go to 100 gig taps on just about any cabling plant that you particularly have, because our mantra is to see that packet wherever it is. We also have virtual taps that work in a Windows and a Linux-based environment, so we can see what's inside the systems. Once we've got that packet, we need to present it to your monitoring stations in whichever way that we do. So we aggregate that data together. Once we've aggregated that data, we either bring it to a monitoring device, monitoring tool, whether that's a security tool or whatever, or we then manipulate that data. So we optimize that data to whichever way that you prefer it to be in. And that could be you slice it because it's encrypted data, or you tag it or something else. And then we have a unique part of our portfolio that is inline bypass for edge security. So we have a number of products that bring in the inline tools, the inline taps, and they have traffic aggregation and optimization built inside those. And again, they go from various different speeds as well. We still can go down to 10 meg on these things, and we can go up to 100 gig on these sort of tools as well. So how do we pull this all together for your environment? So we have what we call our tap-to-tool architecture. And the tap-to-tool architecture is a very simple thing to do, really. We tap and we send it to your tool. And as I mentioned earlier, as I was talking to you, we can tap in various different places inside your network, whether that be your server, whether it be the connection from the servers to your switches, whether it be in the core of your network, whether you have stuff in AWS or any cloud into architecture, we can tap up there as well, and we can pull down with inline tools. That way we can guarantee that we can always see every bit and byte inside your network. So now let's put this into place in maybe a couple of different contexts for you. So let's look at this, what I've called an OT environmental use case, but actually it could be an OT use case for anything. They're all very, very similar. And I've labeled these level 0 to level 4. Level 4 being your enterprise network that pulls back, and level 0 being the actual thing that you're doing at the end. Now, one of the first things we need to consider is, where is the flow of traffic? And that's something that you need to think about. Often when customers speak to me, I ask them, I say, well, where's the traffic coming? Where's the flow happening? Where is this happening? Because you may not know and understand where they are inside your network. And that's the first thing you need to do. So in this instance, maybe you're looking and worrying about your traffic that's coming from your enterprise, your IT level, down into your OT network. So then my first thoughts would be, have some sort of tap made inside of there that is looking at what is happening between those two levels of network. Remember in this case as well, that we're looking in isolation of this. However, you need to think about your total supply chain. So you need to start thinking of yourself and then work outwards from there. And then when I look at my operations level, again, I can maybe tap into whatever servers I have, either with a physical tap or with a virtual interface. And then really at my process level, I'm probably looking at my SCADA network. And I'm starting to think in there, how am I going to come inside these boxes? What am I going to do inside here? Now, in this OT environment, I frequently use taps with data diodes in them, because I actually want to make sure my traffic is only flowing in one direction. I don't want to ingress traffic back into my network. And then as I come down further in my control network, this is where frequently I'm going into things like my PLCs. And I'm tapping into PLCs at various different speeds, and I bring those in. Now there, normally what I do is the PLCs are in an array in some sort of cabinet, and I use an aggregation tap. So I aggregate the slower speeds from the PLCs up to there and bring them through. And then I take them out to the right-hand side of my diagram here, where I have some form of aggregation device. And this is where I need to start thinking about what I'm doing. So it depends on that monitoring tool at the edge there or whatever I'm using there. But what typically happens in an OT environment is when I come from my control level, I may want to VLAN tag. And in fact, I may want to VLAN tag in all of those levels. So I really only have 5 VLANs there. So I could tag 5 different VLANs, and I could know from my control level, I'm coming out of VLAN 1. However, I may have 60 odd PLCs in VLAN 1. So I may actually Q and Q. I may tag in tag. So I know that my outer tag is from VLAN 1, but my inner tag possibly is from a PLC, which could be, 1 to 64 or something like that. Any arbitrary number. Now I can see directly down where my data is coming from. And that's a very, very frequent thing that I'm using often in an OT inside of environment. Because of the speeds are often quite low, I frequently aggregate those speeds up and then bring them up to a central location on top of that. If I move that round now to a more traditional environment that we probably some of us more knowledgeable about or more comfortable with, really. Today, a lot of my facilities have moved out to the cloud. I can have a virtual tap that sits on both a Linux and a Windows operating system, and I can see the data that's coming inside in the cloud. And I can mirror that data with that virtual tap. Now, although I've drawn it on here that it's coming back to a security tool, realistically, that security tool will stay in the cloud. You don't bring the data out because it's expensive. However, that is possible if you want to, and you want to filter and only bring something, maybe that is a possibility as well. And then I have my core firewalls, and I have bypass taps in between those firewalls. I often get asked, why do I need that? Well, if I use a bypass tap, I can be using them in active standby type of ways. And that will allow me then to take maybe one tool out, one firewall out, one inline device out, and allow me to work on it, sandbox it, test it, pull it back in, bring it back into the network. And then further down, I can tap in my spine network, and I can do that in multiple ways. I could put physical taps there. And let's be fair, much as I would like you to put a physical tap on every single link, most people don't. They'll use the span port on their switch. So they'll use a combination of span port and tap. Now, the big downside, if I do that, for me, if I put a span and I tap, bring span data out, I can induce data back into that network. So that's a big downside. Typically, I would suggest to people that use a data diode tap on the spam port as well. And that way I can guarantee there will be no ingress data back into my network. Of course, span and tapping gives me another challenge, certainly later on, that I'll come to in just a second. And then I can tap on my leaf switches. And where I've got down at the bottom here, my servers that are in a private cloud, I have a couple of choices here. I can physically tap the network port when going to the switch, which is fairly common, or I can actually put a virtual tap inside the machines. Now, the virtual tap inside the machine is going to give me some advantages. If you consider it, the tap on the physical link is a nice thing to have, and that is all the data egressing and leaving my servers, my virtual machines. What happens about the data that is inside these machines and is not leaving? And remember, these people that are out to do damage are becoming very clever and very sophisticated. So some of these things that sit inside the machines for years, and it's a certain language pack that opens them up and starts them up. With my virtual tap inside my machine, their way I can see the intra communications that is going on between those VMs, which is what I can't do when I leave. So when I leave, I'm seeing my north-south traffic, but when I'm inside the machines, I'd like to see what is going east-west and staying inside there. So in the ideal world from me, I would probably do it both places. I would tap physically and virtually. That again would give me the same issue I have here with the span and the network port. So I take all that data out, I bring it out, and I either simply aggregate it, and a very simple aggregation so I can load balance the data and send it to whatever monitoring tools that I have, or I can bring it into an aggregation device, as we call it, an advanced features aggregation device, which will timestamp it for me. It will packet slice it for me. So I may have, a lot of traffic now is TLS encrypted with thermal keys. So maybe I just don't want to see that. I only want to see the headers are changed. So I'll slice the data out. And lastly, but not leastly, it will deduplicate, because now I've brought data in from my spam port, I've brought data in from my network tap, and possibly I've brought data in from my virtual tap. So I've brought that data in from multiple locations. So I need to deduplicate that. Granted, some monitoring tools will take that deduplication into place, but that's an overhead there. So let's bring the deduplication back inside to the advanced features box. So that allows me this complete scenario that I can tap anywhere. I can bring the things out. I can orchestrate that traffic in whatever format that you need it to be and present it to your monitoring tools. That allows me to completely secure my IT environment. And from my previous slide, I then take that back into my OT environment and I secure the link between the two of them. So I'm looking more at my supply chain inside, my different areas inside, before I start to look at that bigger world of what's happening outside of there. So that really is all we do. Very, very simply, our mantra is to find the packet and present the packet to whatever that security or monitoring device that you want it to be. The core of that is the tap for 100% visibility of a packet anywhere. The aggregation side of it allows you to deploy what you need when you want it and deploy what features you need, whether you want tunneling, whether you want slicing, whether you want timestamping. And we feed that all very, very much to whatever independent tool that you are working with and you want to work with. Our mantra is to do this as simple as possible, almost like a plug it in and it works. So that's it. That's very briefly Garland, and I thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you.